Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you enjoy this live legal education content, and today will be the day I earn that subscription. For today's story, we are dealing with the latest and greatest in chess drama. For those of you who are not familiar, there has been some chess drama as of late, as Magnus Carlsen, who is the current world champion, has now blatantly basically accused Hans Niemann of cheating in a recent tournament, an over-the-board tournament. And the mechanisms of cheating has not been completely established, but it has been suggested by various news reports that the methodology of cheating was perhaps anal beads, thus bringing us to Uncivil Law After Dark. So the current speculation that has been circling the zeitgeist is that Niemann, who is 19 years old and American, was cheating at the tournament. They wanded him down with metal detectors, but perhaps he had shoved a Bluetooth anal bead butt plug up his ass, and that the thing was vibrating and giving him moves. This seriously has been the thing that has been alleged. So, great. So we put a chess computer inside a butt plug or some anal beads. We shoved it up our ass. Somehow we're able to communicate to the chess computer butt plug and ask it for suggestions on moves, to provide moves to help beat Magnus Carlsen. That's been the zeitgeist accusations. So we're going to read a little bit about this article. We're going to read the statement from Magnus Carlsen, and then we're going to read a little bit about defamation law and how this might or might not be a problem already based on what's been said so far. So let's read this article from Taco, which summarizes all the wonderful drama so far. The chess champion Magnus Carlsen has accused Hans Niemann of cheating over the board. Okay. After nearly a month of anal bead memes and chess drama, the world champion Magnus Carlsen has finally opened up about the stunning defeat to the 19-year-old grandmaster. So the guy who beat him is a grandmaster in his own right, but not Magnus's level of grandmaster. He's like 70th in the world or something, and Magnus is number 1. And so normally you would expect it to be a walk in the park for Magnus, not particularly for the reasons that Magnus was playing white, which is a pretty big advantage in chess. So you wouldn't expect him to lose to this level of player while he has the advantage of playing the white pieces, but he did. So there's a whole bunch of things, yeah. So long story short, Magnus Carlsen believes that Niemann is a cheater, and we'll read his exact statement in a minute. The drama all started earlier this month when Carlsen lost to Niemann in an unusual match in their first ever meeting at the in-person Sinquefield Cup. Niemann should have been outclassed, but Carlsen made some mistakes, and the 19-year-old was able to capitalize on them with apparent stunning precision. Rather than move on to his next opponent, Carlsen resigned from the entire tournament and tweeted out a provocative clip that heavily implied he thought the foul play. He tweeted out a clip of, I think it was like a football manager, European soccer, saying like, I would say more, but I can't. So, I'm not going to say more before I get in trouble. So basically saying I have something, but I'm not going to say it because I get in trouble, which itself might be saying something. We'll get into implication, defamation in a minute. Again, we'll go over the exact statement in a moment. The chess world spent the next few weeks abuzz in a heated debate and speculation about whether Niemann was in fact a cheater, and so how he might have accomplished it. On Twitch and Reddit, chess shitposters joked that maybe Niemann used supercomputer inside anal beads to communicate the best moves. Yes, like many things, it started as a joke, as a meme, and like many memes, the meme has become real. It has become real. It started as a shitpost. I suppose this is more shitposty than most due to the anal beads, but started as a shitpost, and then people actually started talking about it seriously, and it's been picked up by real press. Not that Kotako's real press, but it's been picked up by real press. There's no evidence, of course, that he did this, at least yet, but the outlandish meme has captured everyone's imagination because it reflected the fact that there's no evidence for Carlsen's insinuation, and we're going to see more insinuations in a moment as well. Fast forward to last week, and Carlsen and Neiman met in an online match in the Julius Baer Generation Cup. The latter only played 2 moves before the chess champion resigned. So on Carlsen's second move, he resigned the match against Neiman, which of course escalated the entire controversy to a much higher level. Neiman lost in the knockout stage, while Carlsen ended up going on to win the tournament, but not before once again heavily implying the 19-year-old is a cheater. Now, for what it's worth, the Neiman has said that he did cheat when he was much younger, like 12, 13. He cheated in online play, and he was banned by chess.com, I believe, as a result. But he says he's never cheated in on-the-board play, across-the-board play. And at tournaments, obviously, they have mechanisms to try to detect any computers and stuff, including the handheld, wanding and stuff like that. So, but maybe no one thought to check the butt plugs. Okay. So even now, Carlsen hasn't stopped short of providing any actual evidence. While Neiman has admitted to cheating when he was on chess.com, Carlsen is back to alleging he's cheated more recently. And we'll read again his specific statement. Danny Rage, a chessmaster and executive chess.com, told Guardian his platform has better anti-cheating models finally tuned to each grandmaster player's profile. Once in a while, anomalies do happen. But if you have a lot of smoke, a lot of evidence, or a lot of reason to believe in the DNA of someone who it is, and you walk in the room and they just say, I lifted that fridge with one arm, you're like, effing bullshit. Is there a lot of smoke in the Neiman case? Wrench isn't saying, at least not yet. All right, so that's all the zeitgeist news that you need to know, right? What you need to know going into this is that there's been a basically month-long controversy in which has been suggested that Neiman, who is an American, 19-year-old American, might have cheated in across-the-board play. How? By perhaps anal plugs or anal beads in his ass. This has been the zeitgeist suggestion. Now, I bring all that to your attention because you need to know all that background, because we're now going to analyze Magnus Carlsen's statement that he came out with today on the basis of defamation, right? All statements, of course, in defamation need to be understood in their full context. And so having knowledge of all this background is very necessary, because as we parse his statement and we look for potential avenues of defamation, we need to be thinking about, like, what does everyone who's reading this knows? And of course, this is sent by its own terms to the chess community. And the chess community is more likely to know all these things. So now you know what the chess community knows, right? You have the requisite background aura, right? You have the requisite background knowledge that you would have as a person this communication would be reading, right? In order to analyze it and analyze it with me. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So Magnus writes this saying, Dear Chess World. So right away, he targets his audience, right? This letter is ostensibly to the chess world, who is more likely to know about all the background information I just gave you. And Magnus writes the following things, and we're going to analyze to see whether or not there's anything that's defamatory here or not, under at least some theories of defamation. Magnus writes, at the 2022 Sinquin Field Cup, I made the unprecedented professional decision to withdraw from the tournament after my round 3 game against Hans Niemann. A week later, during the championship chess tour, I resigned against Hans Niemann after playing only 1 move. I know my actions have frustrated many in the chess community. I'm frustrated. I want to play chess. I want to continue playing chess at the highest level in the best events. All right. I believe that cheating in chess is a big deal and an existential threat to the game. Now, right away, right? Like, even statements that are not so explicitly saying Niemann, right? I mean, he's already said, right, in sentence 1, right, it's about his 3-round game against Hans Niemann, right? He's mentioned Hans Niemann twice in the first paragraph. So in the third paragraph, where he says, I believe cheating in chess is a big deal, right? He might not in that sentence mention Niemann, but of course, he doesn't necessarily have to, right? Niemann was mentioned earlier. And of course, even if Niemann hadn't been mentioned explicitly in this by name, a person reading this might very well understand it to be talking about Niemann, right? Because this is all by context, right? Defamation is, as always, based on context. What is the overall context, right? So we mentioned Neiman by name, so now we're reading it in that light. And if we weren't already, even if he didn't mention Neiman by name, we'd probably be reading in that light anyway, because that's the reason that he's writing the letter, right? This has been the zeitgeist for like a month. Of course he's writing about Neiman. Who else could it possibly be, right? So the fact that he doesn't mention Neiman in this sentence wouldn't necessarily be a problem. Now, I will just break briefly before we analyze further to note, of course, that different states and different jurisdictions deal with defamation differently, right? So when I'm saying all this, I'm talking about possible theories of defamation depending on your jurisdiction, right? I'm not claiming that Magnus did or did not defame anyone, because it would depend on what jurisdiction was analyzing the questions. I did make a point of noting that Neiman himself is American, because that could be relevant, right? He apparently lives in New York. So one might think, okay, maybe we're targeting, and this is all going to his professional reputation as a chess player. So there's a per se issue. And so maybe there's a basis for Neiman to sue in the United States, at least in New York, maybe. And so would New York allow for some of these things? I don't know necessarily, but let's talk about possibilities at least. Let's talk about possibilities about what might be happening depending on where we can or cannot sue, and depending what part of the world we are in. So we're not mentioning Neiman, but the fact we're not doing that might not necessarily be dispositive. All right. He writes, I believe that cheating in chess is a big deal and an existential threat to the game. I also believe that chess organizers and all those who care about the sanctity of the game we love should seriously consider increasing security measures and methods of cheating for overboard chess. Now, exactly what that would be here, he doesn't say. When Neiman was invited last minute to the 2022 Sinqueam Cup, I strongly considered withdrawing prior to the event. I ultimately chose to play. All right. Then he's going to mention Neiman by name some more. I believe Neiman has cheated more, and more recently than has been publicly admitted. Is he expressing an opinion, or is he expressing a fact? We'll get a little bit more into that as we read on some more. But let's look at what it says. Like, I believe that Neiman has cheated more, and more recently than he's publicly admitted. Is he saying it's my opinion? Is that a pure opinion? Or is that a mixed opinion, in fact? His over-the-board progress has been unusual. That seems like a fact. And throughout our game in the Sinqueam Cup, I had the impression that he wasn't tense or even fully concentrated on the game in a critical position, while playing me as black in a way I think only a couple of people could. This game contributed to changing my perspective. We must do something about the cheating, and for my part going forward, I don't want to play against people that have cheated repeatedly in the past, because I don't know what they're capable of doing in the future. Now, I mean, on one level, I mean, but he's 13. I mean, does no one get any grace at all? Anyways, then he finishes by saying, there's more I'd like to say. Unfortunately, at this time, I'm limited in what I can say, without the explicit permission from Neiman to speak openly. So it sounds like I want to say more things, but I don't want to, or I can't, because I'm concerned about defamation. But he might have opened himself up already, right? Because now he's saying, I am limited in what I can say without express permission. So what is he saying? He's saying there's more I want to say. They're saying I have more information, right? He's saying I have information that I am not telling you. He's telling you that, right? He says, unfortunately, this time I'm limited in what I can say without explicit permission. So what is he saying? He's saying there's things he's not saying. He's saying there's things, secret things that only he knows. This is important in defamation law. This is important in defamation law. So far, I've only been able to speak with my actions, and those actions have said clearly I'm not willing to play chess with Neiman. And by, of course, extension, who is a cheater, because we've basically been saying that all. I hope this matter comes out, whatever it may be. All right, so what I want to talk about, right, is these statements that seem like opinion. Like, on one hand, I believe that Neiman has cheated more, and more recently than is publicly admitted. Is that pure opinion? Or is it fact? Or is it mixed opinion and fact? Right? Because just because you say the magic words, my opinion, or I believe, doesn't necessarily make it so. And to highlight that point, I thought we'd go over this article from the Virginia Defamation blog. Again, your mileage will vary depending on what jurisdiction you're in, what state you're in, what country you're in. But I thought this was a good opportunity to talk about implied undisclosed facts as a basis for defamation. Implied undisclosed facts as a basis for defamation, right? We all know that defamation only extends to statements of facts because they have to be false. And only facts can be false. Opinions can't be false. So what if you say, okay, in my opinion, person X is doing so-and-so or so-and-so, right? In my opinion. Does that mean it's so? Well, not necessarily, because it could be an implied, undisclosed fact. The statement of the opinion could be said to be conveying the fact. And the article goes on to note this. As a general rule, statements of opinion are not actionable. It's also true, however, that indirect implication from a statement can form the basis of defamation. When a person prefaces a statement with, in my opinion, or I firmly believe, does that sound at all familiar from what Magnus said? It has no effect on whether the statement carries defamatory implication or innuendo. Yet merely saying, in my opinion, does not cut it. If a speaker expresses an opinion under circumstances that would cause a reasonable listener to understand the opinion is based on the speaker's knowledge of undisclosed facts, the opinion can be treated as an implied assertion of fact. And if that factual assertion isn't true and conveys a defamatory meaning, liability might arise. So this is the principle of law I wanted to teach you. This is, after all, a legal education channel, right? And so a lot of people have been looking at this and being all like, oh, these are just pure statements of opinion, right? Magnus is just simply saying, I believe that Neiman's cheated more than he's publicly admitted. His over-the-board process has been unusual. I had the impression he was tense. While playing me in a way I only think a handful of people can do, right? That all sounds like opinion. But then, of course, in his last paragraph, he says, unfortunately, at this time, I'm limited in what I can say without express permission to speak openly. So what is he saying? He's saying there is some sort of opinion. There's something he knows. If a speaker expresses an opinion under circumstances that would cause the reasonable listener to understand the opinions based on the speaker's knowledge of undisclosed facts, the opinion can be treated as the implied assertion of fact. So in jurisdictions that allow defamation by implication, the expression of opinion, right? This is the difference between pure opinion and a mixed opinion, right? Pure opinion you can't sue over, but mixed opinion you can, because the mixed opinion expresses fact. And this is an example where, even though he's not telling you what the facts are, in fact, he's very explicitly telling you, I'm not going to tell you what the facts are. He's nevertheless implying it. So there you have defamation by implication. The article goes on to note, this isn't really an exception to the rule you can sue someone for an expression of opinion. Pure opinion remains protected, as it does. The question is whether a reasonable listener or reader would infer from a particular statement, whether couched as opinion or otherwise, that the speaker or writer knows certain facts unknown to the audience which support the opinion and are detrimental to the reputation of the person about who the statement is made. If an opinion fully discloses its factual predicate, that's fine. If you disclose all the relevant facts that form your opinion, then great. If those facts are, of course, false, those facts themselves could form the basis of a defamation, but not the opinion statement, right? So if you give all the facts and then give an opinion, the opinion statement cannot be the basis of defamation. The facts are, and if you don't convey the facts at all, then maybe by implication. By way of example, let's take a hypothetical from the Restatement of Torts. It's a good place to go. Suppose Dave writes to Will about his neighbor Paul. I think he must be an alcoholic. That's it, no other information. I think he must be an alcoholic, is the statement. Assume Will that knows that Dave and Paul are neighbors. if that's the whole statement, Will might reasonably assume that Dave knows something about Paul that would justify that conclusion, and that could be defamatory, right? Because he's in a position to perhaps know secret facts, and perhaps the opinion is conveying those secret facts. On the other hand, suppose Dave were to disclose the basis for his opinion. Paul moved in 6 months ago. He works downtown, and I've seen him during that time only twice in his backyard around 5:30, seated in a deck chair with a portable radio listening to news broadcast and a drink in his hand. I think he might be an alcoholic. This time, Will couldn't reasonably assume the existence of other undisclosed facts. So assuming the supporting facts are true, the alcohol conclusion is not defamatory because you gave all the facts that support your opinion, right? You've seen him only, according to your recitation of the facts, you've seen him twice in 6 months in his backyard at 5:30 with a portable radio with a drink. Twice in 6 months. I think he must be an alcoholic. That seems like a ridiculous opinion, but you gave us all the facts that form the opinion. You gave us all the information necessary for us to reach an independent opinion. We could agree with you or disagree with you. Because what is an alcoholic? Well, I suppose it depends on the mind of the listener. But if all you say is, I think he must be an alcoholic, based on what? If there's undisclosed facts, you might have a problem. Magnus, by his own paper, Magnus, by his own thing, has said that there's hidden facts. Timothy Duffy says, just because you're a neighbor, you might know secret facts. It could be understood that your opinion is based on secret facts. If you write about your neighbor saying he's an alcoholic, one could reasonably assume it's because you have some special ability to observe. Like, why would you think your neighbor's alcoholic? And the answer is, well, because you've observed your neighbor doing things that would lead you to that conclusion. But you're not saying what those things are. Otherwise, your opinion's just kind of naked. It's like, based on what? So if you write someone saying, well, I think my neighbor's alcoholic, you're implying you've observed something that would lead you to that conclusion. But you're not saying what those things are. And so now it might be in the mind of the listener to conjure the worst possible scenario, right? In reality, it's because I saw him twice drinking in his own backyard, listening to the radio in 6 months. That's the reality. But what does the listener hear? What does the listener conclude? Right? If you said your neighbor's drunk, what are you thinking in your mind? He holds, huge parties. He holds, huge get-togethers. He gets sloshed all the time. I hear domestic violence. I hear, all kinds of malfeasance. So the question, as always with defamation, is what does the reasonably prudent person observe? Or what does the reasonably prudent person conclude? And if you don't give them enough information, they're going to fill the gap with all kinds of crap. And because they did that, it leads to a false impression. So by conveying the opinion, it's that you're allowing the listener, without providing any context at all, you're allowing the listener to fill in the gaps with whatever parade of horribles they want in their own mind, and you're creating damage to reputation. Like, all you had to do is recite the facts, as you just did, and the problem goes away. Then we can, evaluate it based on some merits. G. Smith says, I don't know if Neiman would have the money to sue Magnus. Depending on the jurisdiction, he might be able to get caught. He might be able to get costs. Again, these are all like possibilities. Right? If he can prove certain things, he might be able to get costs. Unindicted co-counsel says there has to be a reason beyond I think X. If you don't imply there are hidden facts, or if hidden facts are implicit, it's unlikely to be defamatory. No, maybe. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that characterization, but okay. In the real world, it's unusual. It's usually not so obvious whether a statement of apparent opinion implies the existence of undisclosed facts. Well, here Magnus is making it a lot easier because he's telling you there's things he's not telling you. So here it's a lot easier to do that. And interestingly, the article goes on to note the article goes on to note an example in Virginia where there's a case of Heidi Meredith versus Nestle. Meredith worked for Nestle and was fired for unspecified conduct. A few months later, she took a job with an outside storage company that Nestle used to house and distribute its products. On the first day of her new job, a Nestle employee called her new boss and conveyed words to the effect that Meredith had been fired from Nestle for insubordination. She was a disgruntled former Nestle employee. She might sabotage Nestle's products, and Nestle didn't want someone working at the warehouse who might sabotage products. Meredith sued. There was no allegation that Nestle told the warehouse directly that Meredith had sabotaged his products. But the question was whether, when Nestle moved to dismiss, whether the statements Nestle made occurred under circumstances that would cause a reasonable listener to infer concerns of sabotage. So they didn't say she committed sabotage, but are they inferring it? With respect to insubordination, the court observed that while whether certain conduct amounts to insubordination might be opinion, the fact was the allegation was the new employer was told she was fired because of insubordination, which is untrue. It was not the basis for her being fired. The court agreed that whether she was fired for insubordination is a matter of fact. Right? Is that the reason you were fired or not? The court found the phone call to be taken in its entirety, using words like unsubordination, disgruntled, and sabotage, conveyed an implied message that Nestle knew more than was revealing, and the undisclosed facts justify concern about sabotage. Viewing concerns in these contexts, the court finds that sabotage and disgruntled statements plausibly convey a factual conduct. So basically, that's what's going on in this case, or this is what could be going on in this case, right? Magnus has made his statements of opinion, and he said very explicitly, unfortunately at this time, I'm limited in what I can say without explicit permission from Neiman. So he's conveying that he has information he's not conveying. And so he is conveying that he has facts not conveying. And so there could be a defamation by implication. So that is what's going on in that case. So I thought it would be interesting to cover this and talk about this. And again, just for the third time, I think, your mileage is going to vary substantially based on what state or what jurisdiction you're in. Some states will allow for this. Some states will not allow for this. And I can't even begin to say what would happen if you sued in other countries for this. But, you know, since Neiman is American, that brings the possibility of the Alien Tort Act. The district court shall have original jurisdiction of any civil action by an alien for a tort only committed in violation of the laws of nations or treaty of the United States. So, because it impacts an American, the Alien Tort Act as a basis of jurisdiction becomes a fun and interesting possibility on top of other fun and interesting possibilities, depending on how far we want to push this. Yeah. Zoe asked, did anyone come up with a Bluetooth scanner? I don't think anyone has a phone. So I think no one had a scanner. And as far as I know, this was just started as a pure shitpost. I think this was completely started in the open. Plus, it doesn't necessarily have to be Bluetooth. If he could find some way to signal the computer without it going like externally. So someone like feeding him vibrations using a phone, for example, on the Bluetooth would be one mechanism. But maybe he has some way to input information into the butt plug himself, not necessarily using an electronic device. Maybe if he clenches his butt so many times in the right sequence, he can Morse code. Maybe he can Morse code, can talk to the butt plug with butt clenches. I don't know. I'm not sure whether or not the Bluetooth thing is going out here. Put off some EMF. Maybe it's shielded. I don't know. It's just shielded. It's a shielded anal butt plug with butt clenching input mechanisms. I don't know, man. Gozan says I'm digging too deep. Hey, yo. What else can I talk to you about? So I thought that would be interesting just to talk about defamation by implication. Yeah, but Maxwell Smart Shoe, yeah, something like that, yeah. Catnip Dave, this is not a drama channel. I'm still thinking Magnus just played a bad game, was butt hurt. That is like the Occam's razor solution on this one. Talk about Bobby Fischer. Was he ever sued for defamation? No, not to, well. Bobby Fischer was missing for most of his life. He was found, but when he was found, he was basically a crazy man, and he didn't die. He died pretty shortly after that, to be honest. But I don't know if I don't think Bobby Fischer was ever sued for defamation. No. Also, I don't think Bobby Fischer ever said that Kasparov were using butt plugs or anything. But anything. Oh, Niner Breaker 2 gave me a super chat. Let's take a look. Krista became a member for 2 months. Thank you. Niner Breaker 2 gave $10. The biggest issue everyone is disregarding is that even if Hans did cheat, Magnus ruined a whole tournament by leaving it because it was a round robin format. Not appropriate behavior even is right. Well, I mean, you can't force the man to continue playing. I mean, if it's a round robin tournament, that means he just loses every round. I mean, that's easy enough to calculate in a round robin. I mean, it means someone isn't playing around every round, but I mean, it's easy enough in scoring, but I mean, you can't force the man to play. Kiwi New York Upstate give $5. Thank you very much for your super chat. Appreciate it as much as always. Thank you. With Baldwin, it looks like the Baldwin saga might be coming to an end. The district attorney in New Mexico has asked the board of the county for an additional $600,000 of money for up to 4 criminal prosecutions emerging out of an incident that involves an actor of undescribed unstated name. So it looks like the prosecutor is very, very seriously looking at making some charges here. Because they asked the county for another $600,000 of money. So that's pretty exciting. Here's a similar take. Hans flippantly dissed Magnus after he won. Magnus rage quit the tournament in response and went for revenge, implying Hans was cheating. Revenge out of control. No, I think that's definitely possible. What happens if the county says no? Well, I mean, you don't have the money then, I guess. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. Do a GoFundMe. I'm not sure whether or not that would be legal or not, but maybe that's the next solution. Why did I leave Virginia? No particular reason. I left at least in part to try to deal with issues of depression. I thought maybe a change in venue would be a nice thing. And I probably would have been more effective had COVID not hit when I moved. Because I moved in February 2020 to a place that I didn't know and didn't really have any connections, because I was going to, get right into the depths of it and meet people and socialize and all the rest of it. And then, of course, COVID hit, and that was very, very difficult since I was in a place I didn't know with people I didn't know. But I moved to Virginia at least in part to try to improve my mental health. I think it was a good move in balance. It just wasn't as effective as I had hoped for because of COVID and me now being able to socialize and meet people and stuff. But at least I wasn't stuck in Northern Virginia. At least I wasn't stuck in DC during the whole COVID thing. So I think that was probably for the best, all things considered. But it kind of sucked a little bit. Does Neiman ever want to sue? I don't know what Neiman wants to do or not. I'm just talking about what's possible. I haven't heard any indication he wanted to sue. I don't know. I don't even know if he can necessarily sue, because I'm not sure what places would have jurisdiction and whether or not these causes of action would be valid in the places where he could sue anyway. It's just like, here's some possibilities. The DA's office was granted $317,000. Okay. It's a start, I guess. How's it going, Rob? It's going pretty decent. It's going pretty decent. If I'll cover the Rust trial? Oh, yeah. I mean, if Alec Baldwin ever goes to trial, if it actually becomes a trial, I imagine that we'll cover that one. Gavel to gavel. That would be pretty big, I would imagine. A lot of people would be interested in that. Maybe another Johnny Depp kind of territory. Alec Baldwin on trial for murder. If that one's broadcast, I think we'll definitely cover that. I can't imagine we'll have things better to do with our time, depending on when that happens. Invite Magnus on to play chess with me. Magnus would kick my ass without even breaking a sweat. I can't play Magnus. I would die instantly. I might as well just resign. Damn. Give Magnus 3 seconds. Give yourself 10 minutes. Oof. Maybe if I take away his queen at the start, maybe I'll have a chance. Yeah. Magnus with only 3 seconds, he very well might. He very well might, since he can think during my time. Yeah. Sicilian. I'm at the level the horsey goes in Little Oz. That's a good start. I hope I'm doing well today. I'm doing pretty decent today. Thank you for asking. Sandra gives 5 gift memberships. Thank you very much, Sandra. That's very, very kind of you. I appreciate your supporting the Uncivilians. Emily gives $19.99. Thanks for being you. Thank you very much. What I think of Lori Vallow's Netflix show, I haven't seen it yet. I don't have Netflix, so I'm going to have to find a friend or someone who has it or something, because I don't have Netflix. I gave it up after Cuties. I refused to continue doing business with them. I'll see what I can do, though. I heard it's good, though. That summarizes all the facts, which is something I could definitely use in my life. Well, thank you for the hearts and cowboy hat emoji. That's very nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Thank you. Don't forget, on the 30th, we'll be doing our charity stream. So you can look forward to that. We're supporting thyroid cancer awareness, American Thyroid Association. Probably starting at about 9. Probably be gaming most of the day. Playing some games. It'll be fun. All right, I'm gonna sign off for now. Yeah, I saw your email about modding. I don't know how to handle that yet. I'll get back to you. I'm gonna sign off. What am I playing? Probably Mass Effect, because I never played it. Probably play Mass Effect. I'm gonna play some other games maybe. Line tonight is great. Thank you. I'm glad you like the lighting, the more orange look. It's pretty cool. It's on brand. Looks pretty nice. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. Until later, my friends, I hope all's well. Cheers, my friends, and goodbye.